All right, we're talking about the Kings, of course, and I know a lot of times Kings fans don't really want to talk a lot about the Warriors, but Jay, we were just looking at what the Warriors did last night. We got to try to figure out what's going on here, and our next guest can help us with that, among other NBA things. Joining us every week, of course, he covers the NBA at large and the Warriors for The Athletic. Anthony Slater. Slates, thanks for your time. What in the world is going on with Buddy Hield and the Golden State Warriors?
They're all their promises of depth and defense and better vibes has come true through 8 games. Now, I would say it was a pretty soft 7 games, which included, they had a nice win in Houston, I should say, but the other 5 wins were not that impressive. And then we were waiting for this 3-game stretch where it's at Boston, at Cleveland, at Oklahoma City, and they passed test 1 last night, which I do think kind of seemed to wake some people up in the league that, they are playing well. Buddy Hield's scorching. The younger guys are getting better. The veterans came into camp in shape. They added some coaches, Jerry Stackhouse, Terry Stotts, that seem to be helping, and they're playing really well.
Yeah, they are, Slates. I'll leave it there because I think if we ask any more Warriors questions, we'll be flambasted at the point. So,
but we had to face it.
Yeah,
Jay.
we do. Yeah. We do. We absolutely do. Slates, your take on the win for the Kings last night against Toronto and what Domantas Sabonis did, like triple-double, perfect, almost as I've teased, a QBR rating of almost being perfect, 6 for 6, 5 for 5, shooting 6 shots and got a triple-double. What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a bonus, number one. As far as the win, it felt like one that maybe last year they would have kind of booted away. I thought, to me, the story, I watched it this morning because I was at that Boston game. I thought like that early first quarter stretch from DeRozan was huge, right? When it was like they were doing guard-to-guard screens early and he was kind of getting his own shot, and then he had it was probably 3-4 straight mid-range post-ups on RJ Barrett. To me, that was the separation point where if you look at last year's team, they just didn't really have that, especially in the non-De'Aaron Fox minutes. So 2 steps back, Sabonis is doing his thing, his regular season thing. The stats are great. He's dragging them, in key moments to big wins. And then, the biggest moment of the season is his shot in Miami. I know that was a couple games ago at this point, but that was the swing game of that road trip. And that was such an impressive rebound. Kind of shoving Bam Adebayo away, catching it in traffic with, other Miami Heat guys down there. I know you guys, I'm sure, talked about it plenty earlier in the week, but that floater, that's the shot of their early season for sure.
Yeah. You mentioned, Anthony, that's what he does during the regular season. Is that maybe why there seems to be so much reluctance from the national media at large to recognize him as an elite player? Is it something where he's going to have to do some of that in the postseason to get some of that recognition?
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh.
He is. It is what it is. He cannot have a more statistically impressive season or even 2 seasons than he did the last 2, right? Like, what could he do better statistically than, wasn't he just like eclipsing like Will Chamberlain double records? And, you mentioned the triple-double last night. It's perfect, but it's a bonus. Like, I'm not to the point, like, I didn't see last night's line and like, wow, so, look what he did. It was like, it's kind of a normal bonus home game against the Raptors. But and this, by the way, this isn't just Sabonis with the Kings, though. He had like what you would consider a poor series against the Warriors a couple of years ago. This was Indiana too. There's skepticism from higher level, basketball people, but obviously fans too about, if he gets in a 7-game series, in the wrong matchup, the way he might be picked on defensively, like, can he get them over the top? And really the way to answer that is to do it. And, he should probably have a chance this year.
Yeah, joined by Anthony Slater of The Athletic. Slates, it's interesting you say that because I've now entered the early Heisman campaign for Domantas Sabonis as far as all-league, all-star, and MVP, right? I'm putting my toe all in the water. With that being said, you kind of hit on the national outlook of Domantas. What's the outlook of DeMar so far through 8 games nationally through Anthony Slater's eyes, even though you are connected to the team more than some national reporters?
Yeah, he's himself. He's like such a sturdy, like high minutes guy, deep into his career. I'm not looking at his game log right now, but the way I remember it, it's like 23, 22 points, 26 points, 25. It's just like, that's such a consistent level of production that is like so reliable. And, again, like it sometimes, and I've dealt with this so much over the 12 years I've covered the league, where a player leaves the team, and every time you compliment him, it always feels like a subtle shot at the guy he's replacing. The Warriors are dealing with that now a little bit with Buddy Hield, Klay Thompson, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like every time I'm like talking about DeRozan's consistent scoring, it feels like a little bit like kind of what they weren't getting from Harrison Barnes last year. You don't want to, go over the top with like what feels like criticism of Harrison Barnes, because Harrison Barnes gave 6 like incredible seasons, 82 games a year, great in the community. Like he did his job, but Harrison Barnes was limited in his own ways, particularly as a go get it yourself scorer, and that's what DeRozan is. And you're seeing through 8 games, what that type of upgrade can be. And I understood some of the fit questions coming into the season, and maybe at key moments against bigger teams, maybe come playoff time, we'll see some of the weaknesses that can potentially, kind of emerge from this core. But right now you're seeing why they got him and why it was considered an upgrade, and why he is who he is, historically, and who he was for so many franchises. Like, I thought he kind of won him the game last night. Again, maybe if they don't have him, they win the game anyways. They squeak by, but I thought that fourth quarter stretch was him just that clinic he put on.
Yeah. And to your point, Anthony, and you probably saw this or heard this, that's 8 straight games for him with 20 or more, and that's a record of Kings, Royals, Rochester, whatever franchise record. No one had done that in their first 8 games with the team. But as far as the fit question, your answer there was really interesting, and I just want to make sure I understood and maybe clarify it. I was going to ask if we can put to bed the notion that DeRozan is a bad fit, but you're saying when you get to better teams, maybe even the postseason, there's still some things that need to be proven there.
I worry about the defense. I just worry about the overall defensive personnel on this team. I think it's a fair worry. They're 11th right now. I think they've had a soft schedule. But they've been impressive. But yeah, like DeMar DeRozan's kind of a smaller wing. You pair him with, a non-rim protecting center. Mike Brown's going to have to be creative with the schemes. These guys are really going to have to lock in not only on game plan, but effort and execution. And, the flip side of that is if they keep scoring the way they're scoring, top 5 in offense, as we saw a couple years ago when they were the 3 seed, you can score your way, to at least the playoffs, and then we'll see beyond. But yeah, I have a few question marks about how they're going to defend it at the level. But by the way, these are good conversations to have that weren't being had about the Kings 4 years ago, which was in a potential second round series against X team, how would they get stops? A couple of years ago, what should they do at the deadline to get off a guy or something?
Oh,
that's true. We'd be already talking about draft position almost.
We'd talk about the lottery already.
Joined by Anthony Slater of the Athletic. Slates, anything so far? I would say anything. That's probably not the best way to come about it. What has surprised you so far NBA season? Is it the Cavs 8-0? Is it Golden State? Is it Cat shooting 57% 3-point line? What's been surprising so far for you?
That's a good question. I'm going to see the 9-0 Cavs tomorrow in Cleveland, actually. Warriors Cavs tomorrow. Should be a good game. I'd probably, maybe it's just the negative in me. Maybe that's who I am. But Milwaukee is that's a situation that I think a lot of people in the league are spotlighting and monitoring. It's gone about as poorly as it could have, and obviously looming over that is Giannis' future, which could really shake up the league if it just doesn't go well this year, and it hasn't to this point. 1-6 now. And Philly, next to them. As you look out east, it's just, I would say those 2 teams who are supposed to be right up there, competing with the Knicks, with the Celtics, with the Cavs, are in a bit of turmoil. Obviously, the Embiid situation is hectic. How about so you have Embiid suspended and the knee thing going on. Paul George had the knee. He just returns. And now Maxi's out a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
They got a chance to really spiral. So, maybe that's a negative side. We can talk positive. It probably would be the Cavs, right? 9-0.
Yeah. Are you still there, Anthony? We lost you a little bit. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. No, all good.
Some hotel rooms, baby.
I know.
5 stars now.
You mentioned the Bucks. Now I was going to ask you about the 1-6 Bucks. How close? Giannis is Giannis. Whatever. Blah blah blah. How close are we to the day when the Kings can pry Bobby Portis away from the Bucks?
Bigfort's having a bad start to the season, so this might be if you're a buy low type of guy in fantasy football, through 2 weeks, the running back that you liked preseason that only got 6 carries or whatever.
Well, he just he got his house robbed or something too, right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that, but you might be right. If that was the way, I just see he is. And he's an interesting offensive player. He's had his playoff moments. I think there's at times where he can really kind of like juice a second unit with his energy and his scoring. But he's like kind of the last couple of years. I think he's been exposed a little bit on the defensive end. And to answer your question, I think he'll probably be available. I think if this keeps going this way in Milwaukee, they're going to have to do a lot of stuff.
Mm.
Yeah,
Chris Middleton.
Give up for him,
Herter.
He'd basically be replacing, like he'd be fit into the Trey Lyles role, and I'm not sure right now that Trey Lyles isn't a better option.
Yeah, Trey Lyles is not shooting well either yet.
No.
And I want to ask you about the shooting because we know the Kings are not the biggest team. They talk about this all the time. We're not the biggest team, and I know it's early, but they're shooting a 3-ball now. What are they? 20-something in the league. They're 26 in the league at 325. If you're a smaller team, you're not making more of your threes. That's just not sustainable, is it? You can't win that way.
You got to hit more of them. I look at Fox as culprit number 1 right now, but I like that he's taking them. I know what the 29% right now. It's an 8-game sample. It's always just so interesting this time of year. We all do this, where, if this was a January 8-game sample that he shot 29%, it would probably shave his percentage from 38 to 36.5, and it wouldn't be that big a deal.
Right.
Right now, he's a 29% shooter. They're scoring well. I got the stats up here. I'm looking at their O rating right now. We're talking 5th in the league, 117.4 per game. So, they're finding ways. They're still doing their backcuts. If you employ DeMar DeRozan, you're going to suddenly start shooting a lot more mid-rangers. So, your 3-point number is suppressed a little bit. But that doesn't mean it's inefficient offense if he's going to hit it the way he has.
Right.
The bonus. They're built not to be some crazy high-volume 3-point shooting team, comparatively to the league. I saw Boston last night. They're shooting 51 a game right now.
Yeah.
NBA record. It's just teams are taking so many that if you have Sabonis and DeRozan, you're going to be, probably lower volume, maybe even a little bit lower accuracy, but at least through 8 games, the numbers would tell you that's not stopping them from scoring efficiently, like scoring in the 2-point range and free throw line and all that. So I think they're fine offensively right now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And you're right. And DeRozan last night, they kept running that, the flex cut, and then he's just destroying people, but it's kind of funny because, he's not the greatest 3-point shooter. And I think right now, going into last night anyway, his shooting numbers through 8 games, they were the highest it's ever been, just barely. But he's shooting the 3-ball well, but it's Malik and Trey Lyles and Fox and Keegan have struggled. So, that should take care of itself at some point. So, but it better. I just think it's important for them against better teams to, don't you think, Anthony? You don't have to take a lot of threes, but you got to make a decent percentage of them in today's NBA.
I'd almost say you have to kind of take a lot. That's almost become a thing where you don't want to get outmassed. Like, you don't want to take 25 threes less than your opponent on any given night just because, then you got to almost play perfect in every other area. I don't worry too much about percentage. So, Keegan Murray's a very good 3-point shooter.
Yes.
I think Kevin Huerter's back looks like himself. I think he's going to have stretches. He's kind of a hot and cold shooter, but he'll have stretches where he'll jump his percentage up for the season because he'll get really hot. Lyle's fine. I look at Fox. To me, Fox is that's been part of the story of why Fox is now considered in that all NBA, second, third team category. He's become much better 3-point shooter than he was earlier in his career. So I don't worry too much about an 8-game sample. So I think they'll be fine percentage wise, but I do wonder how many they'll get up per game.
Yeah. Gotcha. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, fellas.
Yeah. Anthony Slater. If you're an NBA fan, you should be reading Anthony Slater.
Oh, yeah.
Athletic.
Yeah. Slates is everywhere. Been rocking for a while. And, just like most people have the opportunity to go from place to place. But the one thing I love about Slates is, first of all, he's local. He's a national guy who is local, who pays attention to what the Kings are, and he's locked in with what the Kings do. And a lot of times we don't have that opportunity from national guys enough here in Sacramento. And so, you know, Slates is one of those guys.
Yeah. And what's that hat you have on today?
That'd be the Bang Bang 49ers.
Yeah. You want to talk about them a little bit?
Oh, yeah. You want to talk about Juwan Jennings coming back?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You talking about CMC coming back?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's next to the drive, guys. Sactown Sports.
Bang, bang, Niners. The Sacramento